Welcome back to Girl Talk. Barry Edwards joins me here at Island Tire and Automotive Services. We're on the south end. You also have a north end location, so don't forget that. We're talking cooling systems in your cars. You've got a kind of cool little
got a bunch of things
illustration that shows us what it's all about.
Well, we want to talk, now that the weather's finally getting warmer, this is when we start to see if cars have a challenge with the cooling system, that it ends up manifesting itself more in warm weather, typically than cold weather this time of year. What we've got here, this is a diagram. Every car has this. They have some form of cooling system. They have a fluid, usually called antifreeze, and what it does is the engine runs. That fluid is constantly circulating through the engine, and then it runs through a radiator. And the purpose there is to bleed off that heat, dissipate the heat, and then it's pumped back into the engine, cool it. Without coolant in it, literally your engine will weld itself together very quickly. They have a limit, so that's why on cars they have a temperature gauge. Right. Even if it doesn't have numbers on it, you want to pay attention to where does your temperature gauge normally sit, and if you see it higher than normal,
it's a sign you need to have somebody take a look at it.
It may be a sign that you need to look at it, or it may be working unusually hard. We see this a lot with people on vacation. They've got
long trips.
4 or 5 people in the car. They've got a lot of luggage, golf clubs, bikes on the back, and the car's having
put more stress on the engine.
It's having to work much, much harder.
Okay.
A couple of things we've got here today are some of the different types of coolant and why these are important. We've also got a couple radiators here that we've cut apart. These are the 3 most common types of antifreeze, and it's important they're not just different colors.
Can I be totally girly and just say they're pretty?
They are. The Asian coolant.
They're pretty.
The Asian coolant's a particularly fabulous color of pink.
I love it.
This is kind of your standard glycol antifreeze. This is a product known as Dexcool. It's common in a lot of GM products, and then this is what's referred to as an Asian. It's specified, used in a lot of Toyotas and Asian vehicles, and all of these are specially formulated. Coolant or antifreeze does 2 things. One, it helps keep the engine cool, but the second thing is to provide corrosion protection, because they use so many dissimilar metals. You've got iron in a lot of blocks, you've got aluminum, you've got a lot of alloy parts that all come into contact, and they're heated and cooled, so they get very, very hot. They have to be cooled back down, and it creates a really powerful environment for corrosion. And that's really the enemy of all cars.
You've got an example of some of that corrosion on this radiator here.
Exactly. And what a lot of people don't realize, it used to be with antifreeze, with standard glycol antifreeze, if it was a little bit low, you could top it up with some water. With Dexcool, if you put regular tap water in it, in about 30 days, it will ruin it. And at that point, after about 30 days with regular water in it, 30 to 60 days, it literally will create a corrosive environment, and instead of being a nice liquid, it will begin to turn almost like pudding.
Wow.
Very bad.
Kidding.
You have to use distilled water with this.
So this is a thing that if people reference their manuals, they'll know exactly what coolant is recommended for their vehicle.
Do not use regular tap water, or if you have to in an emergency situation, to then get the entire coolant system changed.
You want to get it flushed then.
Yeah. We cut apart a couple of radiators so people can see how one works. This is kind of what would be a traditional radiator. This is the way they used to all be made. Brass tanks, a copper core. These things would just about last forever, except for, you may be able to see up here where we looked at earlier. These little holes along here, this is where the coolant actually circulates through the radiator. And what's happened up here is water was added, it lost, the coolant no longer had that anti-corrosion, so you start having, I refer to it as scunge, like the technical term.
The technical terms, I love it.
It's minerals precipitating out.
It's yuck. Just yuck in there. We don't want that.
Exactly.
Not good.
And what happened with this radiator was that all of these ports, unfortunately when we cut it, we lopped most of that off. But all of these were basically blocked. So you had a radiator, but nothing could the coolant couldn't actually flow through it. This is
You said this is a newer.
Yeah, this is what you see in most vehicles today, and these are still being used in heavier applications. But for the most part, radiators are made out of aluminum with plastic tanks. You know, you can feel the weight on it. It's not real heavy.
Oh, no,
Whereas
it's not
if
at all.
you pick up one end of that,
Yeah,
it's substantially.
for sure.
Key to fuel economy is a lot of time reducing the weight in the vehicle. That means everywhere they can.
Huh.
The
That
prob-
makes sense.
Yeah, the problem with these is over a long enough period of time, most of these will get a leak on the side, on the seam, and they'll literally blow apart or it'll split. So it's real important to maintain your cooling system. We generally recommend about every 30,000 miles on a Dex Cool system, test it. If it exceeds the age or the mileage, then it's time to change. But it's
Well, what's cool too is, and I know we have about 30 seconds left, but when you come in for your oil change here at Island Tire and Automotive Services, these guys will be checking that as part of the routine check on your car, and just keeping it monitored so that if there is a change or something doesn't look quite right, and kind of checking the performance of your coolant, then you can kind of address it before there's any issues.
We'll try to tell folks, say, you know, this time everything looks good. The next service, it may be about time to either change the coolant or address some other issues. And that's one of the reasons why we carry the BG products, because they're really the best preventative maintenance products out there on the market.
And I'm a believer in, like, let the professionals handle it. I don't do my own surgeries and things like that, so
Exactly.
I don't mess around with that stuff. So let the folks that know what they're doing do it for you and take care of your cars. So Barry, thank you as always.
Thank you.
And don't forget, Island Tire and Automotive Services, South End and North End locations. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Girl Talk. I'm Debbie Court, and we will see you next time.